Hello, good morning and welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. On this morning's edition of Newsfile, some solution is in the pipeline over the SoftTribe Ghana Water Company matter. Was the intervention by the national security not in the national interest? That is the question we will look at very briefly. Then the NDC is pointing accusing fingers at the NPP in the Auditor General quote-unquote witch hunt. They seem to affirm the position of their over a dozen or double dozen CSOs that say there is a hidden hand and it is a political one. Yoko now speaks publicly for the very first time on this matter. They are unmoved. They will proceed with the prosecution of the matter. And they are setting that the courts will speak on their behalf. We will then go to the commander to talk about revival. Go to Polugu in the Upper East region to talk about a big dam that is to cost the country $993 million. It's a dam and irrigation project that will also revamp the Polugu tomato factory. Good news, or this is a political vote buying thing. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to deal with the vexed matters. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini. Hello. Welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. Now to my take, and I title it, Serving a Nation. David Asante, I got it wrong. There is revived talk about patronizing made in Ghana goods. In a conversation with an officer of the Electoral Commission, he disclosed that the Ghana Publishing Company Limited, GPCL, had been giving 20% of the ballot printing job for the local government elections on December 17. The state publisher, which could execute 100% of the job many years ago, has for a long time lost out completely to private firms. State entities even ignored a cabinet directive to give a portion of their printing needs to the GPCL, and they were neither sanctioned nor compelled to do so because it simply didn't make business sense. The GPCL had lost its capacity and skill to deliver these jobs. I had been aware of the poor state of affairs, including the dilapidating, deterioration, and abandonment that has become typical of state-owned enterprises. I frequent there a bit to purchase laws and gazette stuff for my clients, and I used to ask why even the bookshop, a phase of its revenue generation point, was badly disorganized. I saw endowment anytime I looked at the building and huge space in the central business district of the capital city. But at the same time, I saw dilapidation and abandonment like I see in places at the state broadcaster, GBC, when I visit that sleeping giant today. So I was surprised to hear someone could trust GPCL with ballot printing. The EC officer told me all publishers had been giving up to December 4 to deliver the papers. That's when I interrupted him and said, "What a gamble. What quality will you get? They will not meet your deadlines too, right?" He replied, "They have done an excellent job and delivered weeks ahead of all others and long before the deadline." If I doubted him, all my doubts were removed when I saw things for myself Thursday afternoon. The place has got a facelift. My favorite spot, the bookshop, very well organized now. I entered and wasn't in a hurry to move out, as I always do. Even the washrooms I shunned now look inviting. An entity that couldn't afford a few thousand cedis to pay salaries is beginning to compete with lead private firms, winning million cedi jobs on merit. It has, without government assistance, established a new production unit housing expensive molding printers, including 5 Speedmaster color machines, making it ready to compete and recover its lost glory. It has given Cabinet more than sufficient reason to approve a recapitalization plan and approval to get into the sensitive but lucrative security printing. Information Minister Kojo Oppong Nkrumah discloses. It is rolling out a digitization plan, and that excites me even more. In a recent take, I celebrated judges who are supervising excellent client services and delivering speedy justice in the same environment where simple cases have traveled 5, 10, 20, and 40 years. This is a young man showing the way and justifying the appointment of youth into high public office. GPCL can grow its capacity and scale to take 50% of government printing needs, and it will pay dividends to that government. The David Boateng Asantes may be a few, but we all can grow more of such by giving opportunities and encouraging them like the EC has done. Thank you very much. That's by way of my take. And now, let's get to meet my guest for this morning and a regular panelist and editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide, editor-in-chief at large, Abdul Malik Kweku Bako.
Thank you.
Also here in the studio is Bobby Banson. He's a lawyer. Your first time on Newsfile, I suppose.
Yes, that is.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, former MP and the Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry. Good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
Good morning, Samson.
Right. So this is familiar terrain for you too. Right. Okay. So on our very first issue, and the breaking news exclusive that we have for you is that the two parties in the SoftTribe matter are having a resolution, hopefully on Monday, an emergency sitting which should resolve all the problems and get everybody back to work. But a lot has happened in the course of the week. Listen to Herman Chinrihese, chairman of SoftTribe Limited. And after that, listen also to Clifford Brahima, managing director of the Ghana Water Company Limited.
They keep putting in the press like we are hungry and we need the contract. We are partners. We do work, they do work. They do the water, we do our IT. If they don't want to work with us, it is their right not to want to work with us. It is their right. I want to repeat this. It's their right. We are not fighting. This is not about contract. We don't want our intellectual property stolen. If we will fight to the death. We didn't go to school and work 20 years to invent something in hard Africa for some fool to steal it. That's not going to happen. That one we'll fight. We'll fight all the way. So I wanted to clear a few things. Firstly, our guy's phone that I said had been scrambled, a guy who they took in, they haven't returned the phone.
Okay.
But we found a remote way to access it and read what was on it. And we realized what they had done to it remotely. His phone has no evidence.
His phone in particular?
Exactly.
But which evidence do you suspect they were looking for on your phones?
The evidence of the extortion that we claimed.
The demands for extortion?
Yes. I'd like to also make a simple point. What in this raid that they came and did, couldn't they have just called, hello, yeah, we would like our data. 2-minute explanation, oh, okay. Why did it require wasting state resources, bringing handcuffs and guns and so on? I mean, it's not even logical. Then I'd like to say this, that, you know, as I said, the best way forward, Ghana government has invested. We have invested. We think we've created a very good product, and the public is there, and they're using it, and they're happy, as far as we can see.
Once they themselves came to tell us that the system was being compromised, it's cause for alarm. Cause for alarm. We started experiencing the following challenges, actually, from that time. Balance on statement of accounts were different from water bills, making it difficult to handle customers' queries. Billing customers with wrong tariffs. 3 days ago, my minister was in Parliament, and I went to give her moral support. I met the MP for Myon. I'm mentioning this so that individuals can call them. MP for Myon in the Northern region. Say, MD, I sent my mother to a house just 3 months. You brought me a bill of 10,000. Why? I said, oh, did you pay? He said, what will I do? Because they were threatening to disconnect it. Another lady called me. She's Laurata Musa Saka, at a point that she was credited 3,000 Ghana cedis on her bill. Instead of her paying us money, we rather owe her 3,000 Ghana cedis. Currently, myself and my deputy and the commercial chief manager, who is in Kumasi currently, but she has a rep here, are solving a problem of a gentleman, one Kwesi. What's the other name? Kweno. He lives at the plush estate around the palace. Is it West Hill? Airport Hills. Airport Hills, yes. He lives in Nigeria and USA. He comes to Ghana once in a while. And the bills they brought him over a period were so outrageous. So he's brought a complaint. And we are handling it to look at. They were even charging him commercial instead of domestic. Another one in Accra East, Roman Ridge. I tried to look for the bill. The man has had a swimming pool. He gets regular water. And the bill that comes to him is zero. And he sent a WhatsApp message to a friend who forwarded it back to me that our company is a company of jokers.
All right, so you heard the two gentlemen there, and Kuku, let me start with you briefly on what you know about the facts regarding this brouhaha. And good news, though, is that they seem to be getting to yes, not no.
You know his new nickname, Mr. No.
No.
No, okay, I see.
And I proudly like to wear that with Kwame Sefakai.
That's right.
Yeah. He told the Speaker of Parliament on Friday that it has to be a no.
That's right.
But Kuku, let's. So I was saying that it looks like there's some glimmer of hope that now they want to go to this forum and then resolve issues and get back to business. But on the both sides, what are the facts as you know them, and do they justify the intervention of national security? And when you are done, Bobby can also look at that for us because of his background as a lawyer.
See, this whole thing was very untidy, avoidable. It lacked finesse. Needless negative publicity that is detrimental to the reputation of the company, SoftTribe, the image of national security, and to some limited extent, the Ghana Water Company. You're telling us that there's a solution in the pipeline Monday.
Yes.
So they've struck a certain compromise. If they had all been sober, they had all been dispassionate, we would not be sitting here discussing this matter. They would have settled their issues on the quiet. Because even if it was a contractual dispute, I'm sure the contract that they signed on to will have provisions that show how to deal with the issue. I'm not aware if they exhausted all those things and then decided that let's go to town and make noise and counter noise. It's not right. See, national security architecture in recent times has come onto the front burner, sometimes for wrong reasons. If you cite the Ayawaso West Wagon incident and the proceedings of the short commission and the indication that there could be a certain disharmony relative to chain of command and all what has happened subsequent to that, does not need such incidents. They have to be, in a position to clean up some of the doubts and the discrepancies.
And this small bit that you mentioned, though important, you heard General Hesse suggest that they had made an attempt, or was the Bolton, one of the guys in the SoftTribe, who said that they had, David Bolton, that they had made contact with the minister and discovered that nobody had given any such instructions for what was supposed to happen to have happened, even though a person who was supposed to be leading and threatening them had been mentioning Brian Champon. And they discovered, after meeting with Brian Champon also, that the guy was setting the two of them up because he was unaware or something like that.
Well, I will not talk to specifics in terms of names, for good reason.
Okay.
But you see, the National Security Council Secretariat has a technical wing that is known as the National Bureau of Communications.
Right.
They've had some relationship with the company, SoftTribe. And there's some understanding between the two sides because of the kind of job they all do.
And that's the team that did this operation?
Yes. But it is because of the kind of relationship they had or have that is why I thought this was needless.
Okay.
Straightforward. There was a rapport. There was a chain of line of communication. Everything was done. Somebody somewhere within national security architecture might have gotten too over enthusiastic and pulled the trigger, quote unquote. And that is what my worry is about. And I'm being very frank with you. You've mentioned names. It's for good reasons. I'm not going to mention names. I usually time what I say, when and where and how. But I think it's about time the president takes a look at the structure, in a way implicitly recommended by the short commission, in terms of the chain of command. Who does what, when, and where, and indeed how.
Did you say implicitly recommended by the short commission, or
I think it was explicit.
Explicitly recommended by the short commission?
Okay. It was. I have, not that I agree with them in totality,
right,
in terms of the entire structure, no. I also have a little background. I'm a student of intelligence, not a professional anyway.
Okay.
But not that, but there was some element of validity, truth, in the observation, and for that matter, the recommendation that was made. And sitting somewhere on the quiet and observing, it had merit. And I think this particular case, whilst I'm not going to go into details, I'm telling you this particular case is a reflection of that matter. You mentioned names. One day will come, we'll sit here and perhaps we'll put all the names out there. But I'm not too sure what you did, which appears to be cleaning up everybody there. If nobody did something, then who did what? I disagree. But as I'm saying, I assume it was a business gone wrong. The contract should have provided the avenue for them to tackle the issue. And
Chairman Hesse says that we are willing and we are ready if you don't want the contract to continue anymore. We have 50%, you are also 50%, stakeholders. All you need is buy us out. Well, name your price and let's sit down.
Yes. You said that's a company that's a reputation that goes beyond the Ghanaian boundaries. I don't know them. I'm being honest with you, I don't know them. I know about them.
Right.
But I have no relationship with any of them or even with a company. But I've done some little checks in the last 2-3 days to realize that they go beyond Ghana, even Nigeria and the rest. So they have a reputation. And some of these things can affect their integrity and credibility.
When they started to make the giant steps, I remember long ago, it was Komla Dumont who introduced them to me, sort of, through the morning show.
Yes, so to be honest with you, I think that I'm even angry that we are being told that Monday they will be settling the issue. I'm angry.
Oh.
Because yes.
The solution we should be looking for. So why are you angry that the
basis for the
way?
solution was already there. And they decided to go to town and mess up. And it did. I would not blame the company for going to town if it did. They were provoked. They were pushed into a corner. And they came out talking. I heard the water company also talking.
Yeah.
I wasn't too convinced about what was being said from their anger. My problem is with national security.
But Brahima Clifford, the MD for Ghana Water, enumerated some problems that they have had over a period, even though the company says that this is like 0.1%,
those are part of the business thing that could be resolved looking at the business format you have. That's the point I'm making. Whatever those issues are, if the contract that they put in place was incapable of dealing with it, then I don't know what kind of contract they signed. The courts are there, arbitration and all those things are there, available.
There's this other aspect. Do you think that also ought to be giving some serious attention? Because while Ghana Water is saying that there have been issues which we do not like, and that's why we are not happy about what is going on, and we saw that they were not allowing us to update our process, that's why we felt, data that is in the national interest was being protected. The company, SoftTribe, is talking about one individual who was sort of the go-between, who was demanding money, and they had issues with that. That sounds clear criminal conduct.
That was the last point I had made, and I was coming to that.
Okay.
After that, I'm not sure I'll make any comment. That I demand of SoftTribe,
SoftTribe,
a full disclosure. Whether it was out of provocation or anger or whatever, they put it out there. Once you've put it out there, it's registered in the public domain. Their compromise or their resolution on Monday would not exclude the demand for full disclosure as to who was engaged in this alleged extortion. So these two, they now have a certain line of responsibility. Perhaps next time you'll be sure what to say, how to say it, when to say it. But whatever it is out there. So we demand a full disclosure.
Mr. Hesse was very hedgy about that.
Then he shouldn't have spoken about it.
And what should be the purpose of the disclosure?
You just said criminal. You just alluded to something criminal. And what do we do to something criminal? We investigate. And beyond investigation, if there's prima facie, as you lawyers say, then we proceed to the appropriate forum to cure the mischief.
Okay.
Okay? That is important. Now let me make one last point, and I'm sure perhaps it has no legal foundation, what I'm going to say. But I feel that sometimes we should clean our Governance Act. This thing of going to court, ex parte, and collecting court orders and then going out to enforce it. I think that relative to demonstration, the Public Order Act, the police conduct, it came up, so it became almost a subculture.
Right.
And I believe the courts even have cautioned the police that this ex parte route is not the best of things.
They have not only cautioned. When the Let My Vote Count Alliance went to the courts, the Justice Dennis Ajay, presiding as a Court of Appeal judge sitting in the High Court, gave a ruling that is now what they have to abide by.
Interesting.
They used to go to the lower courts and they went there to take an ex parte, meaning they go on the blind side of the demonstrators or the organizers. And his ruling now is that, which is now sort of the law.
Binding now.
Yes, because that's higher up, above the lower courts.
Sure.
Is that first, you don't go to those lower courts. And second, you must come notifying the demonstrators or their organizers before you come, so that when you come to argue that they shouldn't demonstrate and you give all your reasons, they can also canvass their reasons why they should be allowed to demonstrate.
Yes, I would be grateful.
I think that's what has made it a bit difficult for them.
Give me a copy of that.
I will.
Please do.
I will.
But I hope, that's why I say I'm not sure if it has a legal foundation, that it could be replicated across and should have affected the Security Council.
I think maybe Bobby shall explain, but
Okay,
for security reasons, when there's a suspicion of a crime, the law gives power to the security agencies or police to go to the court. Once you are of the rank of a constable, go to the court and get an order to do something.
I'm better educated and better informed, but I really wish we clean up our Governance Act and let some equity inform some of these things we do. Bottom line, what happened was untidy, avoidable, lacks finesse, and negative publicity for all the parties involved, particularly the company and the national security outfit.
Okay. So, Bobby, and I wanted you to take it from the point of, from the facts that we have come to know so far from both sides. Is there a justification? What you people say,
you people.
Yes, you the lawyers say national security is sort of an octopus. Yeah, is there a justification for that intervention by the national security?
Good morning once again to your listeners and viewers, and thank you for having me once again. I associate myself largely with the comments by Mr. Kwekubako, except to add that it's very interesting how the national security decided to intervene in this matter from the legal perspective. I had the privilege of seeing snippets of the contract between SoftTribe and the Ghana Water in the line of my professional work. I think about 2 or so years ago when this discussion started. And from what I recall, it was SoftTribe that developed the software. It's an IT company that was going to now, they would now sold it to Ghana Water, not sold in terms of collecting money, but the idea. And what they were going to do was to implement and manage the system. Now, it seems from what has happened that, and particularly listening to the managing director of Ghana, they had issues with the revenue collection because it is SoftTribe that collects the money and then accounts to Ghana Water. So Ghana Water believes that there's a discrepancy in the revenue that is generated and in the revenue that it's accounted to them. There is no way Ghana Water would be able to ascertain the authenticity of what is given to them unless they have access to the raw data. And for them, because it is in the possession of SoftTribe, they had to use means of getting that data before they could even speak to the source of the discrepancy. You will recall that the managing director mentioned a few instances of complaints. So I'm sure for them, I'm playing the devil's advocate. It was an issue of, okay, so far we've heard about 10. What if there are 20 or 30 of such instances. And that will run, it may run into millions
No,
of
but this is
Ghana
a
cedis.
software that has improved your revenue by 14%.
No, that is soft. I'm only playing the devil's advocate. That is SoftTribe's contention. That, okay, maybe Ghana Water thinks that the revenue could have improved by 30%.
Okay.
And you are telling us because it is 14%, we should accept it as it is. So they may have been peeved, for lack of a better word, because of that scenario. Now, there was no way they could have had access to that data except to use extrajudicial processes. It is obvious. Because for them, the contract, I'm sure, had an arbitration clause. And it was going to be you'd have to file and then bring an application for full disclosure and all of that. It may have taken time for them. So they decided to now pull the trigger, as Mr. Bakon said, using this extrajudicial process. Now, looking at the legality of that whole scenario.
Why do you call it extrajudicial process?
Because that is where I'm coming to.
It's judicial.
No, I think it is extrajudicial.
Okay, so extrajudicial means?
Without recourse to the appropriate lay-down procedure in accordance with law.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Does it mitigate?
That's what I'm saying.
So that is what I'm saying. That if they went to court,
extrajudicial means unlawful.
Yes, unlawful process.
Yes, but did they use an unlawful process?
No, I'm talking about the basis
for
them applying for that.
Okay.
The basis, the legal basis. Like you rightly pointed out, I believe it should be Section 8 or thereabout of the CPC, the Criminal Procedure Code, that gives the police service the right to take an application to the court for a search warrant.
It's Section 88.
88,
right.
Okay. Of the on the basis that they have a firm belief that the crime has been committed or it's about to be committed.
Right.
And evidence of the crime will be lost if the search order is not granted. So they have access to the premises. Now you ask yourself whether or not a contractual breach, as it were, would give rise to a criminal offense. That is where the aspect of national security allegedly or purportedly comes in. Because the order, the section that gives the foundation is for criminal matters. Now, this is a pure contract. If Ghana Water thinks that there's a breach, is that a basis for using the criminal procedure code to get that order?
So that we are clearer, let's read the provision which they would have used to go to the court.
Okay. And
you would know that before you even get to that provision, you must begin from Article 18(2)
of the Constitution,
which says that
right to privacy,
yes, and all of that. However, that right is curtailed once what is going to happen is to prevent crime or disorder and all of that. So here is what is happening. So before you get the warrant, it says a district magistrate who is satisfied, and they went to a district court like it's required, who is satisfied by evidence upon oath that there is reasonable ground for believing that there is in any building, vessel, carriage, box, receptacle, or place, these things. A, anything upon or in respect of which any offense has been or is suspected to have been committed, for which according to any law for the time being in force, the offender may be arrested without a warrant. Or B, anything which there is reasonable ground for believing will afford evidence as to the commission of any offense, like you mentioned. Or C, anything which there is reasonable ground for believing is intended to be used for the purpose of committing an offense against the person for which, according to any law for the time being in force, the offender may be arrested without a warrant, may at any time issue a warrant under his hand, authorizing any constable to search any such building, vessel, carriage, box, receptacle, or place for any such thing, and to seize and carry it before the magistrate issuing the warrant or some other magistrate to be by him dealt with according to law.
Okay. And so before this order is granted, there must have been an application.
Right.
The application must have indicated in the affidavit the kind of offense that is being preferred against whoever the suspect is. I don't think we have seen the application they sent. And as of now, I don't think anybody from SoftTribe has been charged yet, at least publicly.
Right.
We are not aware of that with any criminal offense. That is why I said that the basis for that application may not have been well found. They're looking at the facts that is available to us.
But the magistrate granted it.
I mean,
even though SoftTribe also have said that it was not signed and it was not stamped. There was no seal.
Yeah,
I don't
think what they meant by a seal was a stamp.
A stamp, because normally the registrar signs it.
Right.
Sometimes they may not necessarily apply the stamp,
right.
but the registrar signs it. The registrar of the court that grants it just signs
right, so
it.
Proceed.
It's not a judge. The registrar signs it. Now, if they go for that application, most judges, and from experience, recently I was involved in a case like that, would grant the application because for them, the story that is sold to them, if you don't grant it and what we are seeking to prevent happens, then is we've done our part. You refuse to grant it. Right. So they will grant it for whoever is affected to now challenge it. Because SoftTribe would have a recourse. For instance, their phones being seized, when I think justice was involved, Shrimsai, in a case where the human rights court said you cannot seize the phone without a court warrant.
So and even after you seize it, you need permission to access it.
Exactly.
You know, sometimes they seize and they think that having seized it, they have a right to access the information on the phone.
And so that is why I challenge the basis. I've not seen the affidavit supporting the application.
Okay.
But if as of now, nobody from SoftTribe has been charged with any criminal offense, then it seems to suggest that the whole application may have been an abuse of the court process.
Okay.
That is why I said that it seems to me they sat down and decided to use this, what I term extrajudicial process.
So can what Kweku was suggesting happen, that these things must also be on notice?
You know, the
don't go on the blind side of the other side.
The Supreme Court has stated that ex-parte applications are ipso facto an anomaly in our rules. And that until the rules specifically state that you are allowed to go ex-parte, they do not think that any person should be allowed to get any ex-parte. That is why ex-parte rulings are time-bound.
Yes.
So they give it to you, they tell you no more than 10 days,
right.
You should execute it, so that it will not be a means by which people can abuse the process. Unfortunately, in this instance, they would have taken the order and executed the order. And your only recourse is to take the steps. If you set aside the order, if you bring an application to set aside the order, the application may be moot because it has already been carried out.
What Kweku is contemplating, is it practicable? Is this something we should think about?
I think it will be difficult to do it in criminal matters, in pure criminal matters.
Will it help the state in protecting us and the national interest?
That is why the Constitution states that whatever rights the Constitution gives you or you have as a human being is curtailed when it comes to matters of national interest.
Okay.
But the Supreme Court has the exclusive jurisdiction to determine in camera whether or not the circumstances are such that warrants the exercise of the state authority in the situation of a national interest situation. So in this case, assuming SoftTribe decides to go to the Human Rights Court, that the human rights of the person whose phone was taken has been breached.
Those, not only one.
Oh, those, okay. And the defense by the Attorney General is that it was in the interest of natural justice. Then the Human Rights Court would have to stay proceedings.
Interest of national.
Sorry.
It was national
security.
interest.
National security, sorry. Would have to stay proceedings, refer it to the Supreme Court, for the Supreme Court to listen to it in camera and deliver a ruling on that subject. I'm hoping SoftTribe may. That's why when Mr. Baku said he's angry, I sort of sided with him because for us as lawyers, if we don't have an opportunity to test the law to this extent.
Right.
So as it stands now, they say they want to meet on Monday to have a resolution. We would have to wait and see the outcome. But the optics, to borrow your term, does not look good at all.
Okay.
It does not look good at
all. All right. Yes, Mutala.
Well, I think that I largely agree with the two, contributors, even though I have a challenge with my senior comrade's inability to agree with you. When you mentioned specific names, he went ahead to talk about the fact that implicitly the challenges we have with the national security has everything to do with that particular name that you have mentioned, and the explicit, decision taken by the Short committee on the issue.
You become my spokesperson.
He's become your interpreter.
Interpreter, rather.
He trained me, so I understand. I think that is very clear. I don't know how long it will take the president to fire Mr. Brenner Champong. I don't know how long it's going to take the president to do that. If you are taxed with the responsibility...
You're talking in context, where they say this is the name mentioned and they make contact, and they are told that they don't know anything about it.
Your own statement, you have indicated the man himself said that he wasn't aware of the action taken.
According to the SoftTribe people who made the contact.
He is the head of that institution. And I'm saying that a senior comrade was talking about this, also juxtaposing, same with what happened with the Emil Short's committee and investigation and the issues that came up as a result of what happened. You have the responsibility.
But does the credibility of this person who was mentioning Brian's name matter? Well, after it was discovered that the same person was practically lying between SoftTribe and Ghana Water Company, insisting that the MD doesn't make any direct contact
there is no
with SoftTribe when he was doing the go-between and seeking allegedly to privately benefits.
There is no denying the fact that the operation was undertaken by national security operatives. So the issue as to whether the credibility of the person matter is neither here nor there. What matters is that an institution that he is the head can go and execute, projects, if you like, that he claims that he's unaware. And I think that Senior Comrade was juxtaposing this with other incidences that have happened. And mind you, we are talking about the national security.
Right.
Now, I have a little challenge with regards to some of the contributions made in the matter of getting this court order. The fact that the SoftTribe people claimed that it wasn't signed, it wasn't sealed, whatever the interpretation is. We haven't heard any contrary view from the national security as to whether indeed there was a court order. You and I cannot. We are making our argument based on the fact that
national security will hardly reply.
I mean, clearly in matters like this for accountable and transparent governance, they need to.
Okay.
Because mind you, their integrity is being questioned.
Right.
That assuming without admitting that national security went there with a fake court order, I mean, that will speak volumes. Now, I want some education as to whether indeed the ruling that you said was given by the High Court, I guess.
Yes,
so.
yes.
Now, in the matter, Court of Appeal, in the matter of things like this, between national security and fundamental human rights of people at any point in time, which one take precedence? And I think for me, it's very important. Mind you, people's phones were actually seized. And in seizing those phones, they may gain access to information that those people, which are exclusively private to them, between that and national security. Now, if you give a carte blanche, that yes, national security, under the circumstances that they think that the security of the state, it at stake, they can do that, then we are all not safe. And I think perhaps we need a second look at that particular, permission.
The counter-argument may also hold, doesn't it? That your own security and safety is at risk if you don't give them a bit of that, leverage.
The challenge is that when you have unabated incidences of such rights being abused.
So fear of abusing the power given.
And mind you, the moment someone's privacy is invaded, there is no any redemption. Perhaps I have certain things in my phone I wouldn't want anybody to see. Then you've seen it. Is there any way by which it can be redeemed? Because you have indeed, you hid behind a right given to you as a state institution to execute a project. You have executed that, and my right would have been trampled upon. And that is why I said that maybe perhaps I need a bit of schooling in this matter. Which one do we, which one takes precedence? Is it about the national security? And the question is, if indeed we agree that even if national security wanted to do that, they could have informed, the SoftTribe. This is what we want to do. At the very time national security went to the court to make the argument and justify why they needed the order, these people could have gone alongside with them. So the court would have had the opportunity to listen to the two parties at the same time. And that is why I have a bit of worry.
But I was mentioning
it will be risky, yes. Yeah. It will be risky.
You say it will be risky.
It will be risky
to wait
in such circumstances.
I'm not talking of waiting.
No, it took time. To give the suspect notice, because the whole idea of this Section 88 is to forestall the crime.
Yeah.
And so if you know that there's evidence within a particular premises, there is no way, I think, a superior court would rule that in those circumstances, such application should not be ex parte. That is why the affidavit in support of such application
must be properly scrutinized by the judge.
I agree absolutely with you,
and
but
I was,
it comes
I
back
was,
to the
I was
question
bringing
asked
to your
earlier.
attention also that once you say because of fundamental human rights
and the consistent abuse
yes,
of that particular...
Often what people also forget is that by Article 12, the fundamental human rights that you have to enjoy is subject to respect for other people's rights.
I agree.
So once you don't respect other people's rights, you lose the opportunity to claim that your right is being abused.
There are instances where this point you have made can be absolutely justified, where the security of the state is at stake. But we are looking at specific instances such as this, and many other instances that are similar to this, where necessarily it is not about the security of the state, where we have evidences that state institutions have abused this particular. And that is why I premise my statement, but perhaps I need some school, and perhaps a lot of discussions ought to be done around this particular topic.
So public interest also trumps all of these.
Exactly.
So what do you think? ECG,
sorry,
GWCL, Ghana Water Company, is an essential service provider. Does that tell you right away that the questions of public interest and national interest will arise?
No, it will. There is no question at all about that. But here is the case. We have listened to SoftTribe leadership. We have listened to Ghana Water Company. And now there is another serious matter on the issue of extortion.
Right.
And the video you played, the gentleman is alleging when your journalist asked him, what do you think they did with the phones? And he said categorically that they access information that borders on the extortion.
They were looking
for, exactly. I mean, they access information that bordered on the extortion. That is what they access, because they also found a way by which they could determine what they were looking for. Now, the question is that an allegation of extortion had been made. An allegation of extortion had been made against Ghana Water Company and perhaps National Security. I'm saying that if
somebody who was the go-between
Ghana Water Company,
SoftTribe and Ghana Water Company,
and perhaps with senior comrade position, it could even be from the National Security, because they work in tandem with the National Security. So I'm saying that if the gentleman is claiming that they have every reason to believe that the information they asked, and your journalist did a fantastic work, when he asked, what do you think they were looking for? He said he suspects they were looking for the
evidence
on the extortion. So is it a case that the entire raid occasioned not necessarily because a state interest was at risk, but because an individual interest which borders on extortion was at risk?
So that they were looking for the evidence to destroy.
To destroy.
Well,
And I'm saying that it's possible, based on the evidences that have all been provided. So I think that we need thorough investigation. President Mahama issued a statement on
disclosure. Those who made the allegation
should must give the full details.
Right. We will talk about that, but we also demand that further investigation ought to be done in this matter. And you yourself, you have said
and that
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the sitting. It doesn't matter the meeting they are going to hold on. We said it doesn't matter the meeting they are going to hold on Monday. That it doesn't insulate,
of course,
the investigation to extort, because that is criminal. The issue of extortion is criminal. Assuming that was the purpose for this Rambo-style reckless, invasion of the premises of SoftTribe. And I think that
investigations will not be held if there is no disclosure of who was engaged.
But we'll get the disclosure through the investigation. We'll get the disclosure. We'll get the disclosure through the investigation by appropriate state institutions.
Thank you very much. You want to say something?
Yes, I was just thinking that the Section 38 is the power vested in the police. I mean, is the police.
Right.
Now, I don't know the coordination that went on between the police and the officers who actually undertook the raid.
The police, there's a police attachment to the security.
Okay, fine. So then secondly, you asked the question about Ghana Water, whether the issue is a matter that could be of public interest nature. I think the individuals who may have been affected by this alleged maybe revenue miscalculation in terms of the consumers who were complaining, they have a recourse to sue Ghana Water individually. And if they sue Ghana Water, the agreement between Ghana Water and SoftTribe definitely would have an indemnity clause. And so it need not necessarily have been escalated to the public interest or national security level. Like Uncle Kweku said, that there would have been dispute resolution clauses within the contract.
Thank you very much.
Just 30 seconds.
Yes, quickly.
The excuses given by Mr. Dr. Clifford justifying the raid that the national security, and he made references to complaints by clients or those they provide the services to. Every single, even in his office, I believe that they would have had some challenges. So the fact that you have challenges in a system, is it a justification enough for you to say that we need to abrogate the contract that we have with you, or to? I think that if Ghana
that's a decision
if Ghana Water, no, if Ghana Water Company argues on the basis of the refusal of SoftTribe to allow them to have access to back up their data, for me, that makes a lot of sense than making references to 2-3 people who have complained.
So I'll share a few messages with you. We'll take a break and then we'll return to look at the Auditor General and the NDC's claim that he's being witch-hunted, so to speak, sort of affirming what the CSOs have sought to say. Nchibwe Siako says, how can Ghanaians tell a genuine national security operative on approved assignment from an imposter with a fake ID? What are the distinct features of a national security staff ID or badge? And what number can citizens call to verify the ID of a person who claims to work for national security? I'll return to share a couple more of these messages with you as we deal with the next matter of the Auditor General, Daniel Domelevo. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Okay, so, all right. Just a couple of the messages that you have brought in on the very first issue. Okay, so he said, Joseph Eduse says, they always say Kandapa is a decent man, but under him, the national security has been misbehaving more than ever. It is time he is called out instead of making excuses for him. That's a disaster, national security. Okay. All right. Newsfile is brought to you by the candid sponsorship of MTN. Everywhere you go, Star Assurance, your solid partner. Istikabel, quality beyond measure. Amen Scientific, God is the healer. GIA, always remember, insurance companies, claims payments are business. Duraplast, where Duraplast goes, water flows. Prostat 60, breakthrough in prostate health management. So now let's visit the offices of the Yoko and the Auditor General, but we'll do so through the office of the General Secretary of the NDC and the Deputy Information Minister. Let's listen to the two of them first.
Would fair minds not be expecting him to protect the office of an Auditor General who has proven strong his support to the President's call to protect the public purse? The President, in that pre-general speech, called for the support of everybody to help him protect public purse. And somebody comes out that the President has urged us to protect, and he's zealously protecting. Now the President says, you have cut the wrong meat. So this one, this one, they go slow. The conduct of Yoko, unacceptable in the sense that the anti-graft agency is comfortably inviting Yao Domelevo for questioning and granting him bail, but has refused or neglected to invite Yao Safo Mafo for the same breaches of the Public Procurement Act. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, we cannot have two sets of laws in Ghana one for the family and friends of President Akufo-Addo, and another for all the other Ghanaians. If President Akufo-Addo fails to take action on this case of corruption by the senior minister, as we expect he will do, he will have cemented his image as the highest promoter of corruption in the history of Ghana.
That allegation is a figment of the NDC's own diabolic imagination. I mean, totally untrue and maliciously fabricated. There is no such thing as a plot by this government or by any agencies or persons working in government to do any such thing as removing anybody from office. I mean, it cannot be true. The NDC offers no proof whatsoever in the allegation that they make, which is essentially captured in portions of their statement. You read the second paragraph, for instance, of the NDC statement, and they claim that the Economic and Organized Crime Office is acting at the behest of the Honorable Senior Minister without offering any proof, no evidence. Mr. Domelevo himself did the right thing by proceeding to court when he suspects that there is a matter that he believes that in his interpretation of the law is wrong. He believes that the Yoko does not have the authority to investigate him relative to some matters. The Yoko thinks otherwise. And I believe that the Auditor General did the right thing by proceeding to court to seek interpretation. And that is what we must encourage. But this unwholesome, unwarranted politicization of an otherwise straightforward legal matter is very worrisome, and all well-meaning people should rise up against any attempt from any group to want to determine and direct how state agencies such as the courts, such as the Yoko, or such as the Auditor General's office should be run.
Right. So you heard Johnson Esiedin Ketia, General Secretary of the NDC, and Pius Enam Hajide, the Deputy Information Minister. We are joined now by Andrew Ejapamesa. He's MP, 2nd Vice Chair, Communications Committee of Parliament. Thank you very much for joining us.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Great, great, great.
Good morning.
And my other guests, as you have followed so far, Bobby Banson, he's a lawyer. Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, former Deputy Minister of Trade Industry, and regular panelist Abdul Malik Kubako, Editor-in-Chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, Editor-in-Chief at large. Yeah, today I'm emphasizing that. So
he's joined Radio Abi.
Yes. Yes. So, Murtala, why does the NDC feel that this is a matter that it ought to step in and make the claims that it is making, including the refrain that we have become, familiar with from the NDC, that this government is, or Akufo-Addo is supervising unprecedented corruption, and he's unable to, hit people you call family and friends, and you say it's Osafo Maforada who should be pursued, and not Daniel or Domelevo. What's going on?
Well, Samson, it's not just the NDC. I thought you should also be concerned about the fact that an important state institution such as the Office of the Auditor General is under siege by a government that promised, or by a president who promised in the rather bizarre and the most plagiarized speech ever delivered by any head of state under the sun, in which the president indicated that all of us were expected to be citizens and that he was going to take steps to ensure that there was transparent, accountable governance, and that state institutions that are mandated by law to fight corruption, that those state institutions were going to be protected. And there's no denying the fact that the Office of the Auditor General is one of such important state institutions which the president indicated. Perhaps the president feels that he doesn't owe us that responsibility because it was a plagiarized speech. Perhaps the idea of protecting the office of the Auditor General was also plagiarized, so he may not, you know, be claiming ownership of that particular statement. Be it as it may, the NDC isn't the only institution.
But before you proceed, you've heard this Auditor General eulogize, you know, the administration for making sure that he has the funds he needs.
He did same
to take care of what he has
to
to
the NDC administration.
No, I'm just asking you if you are aware of that fact.
Well, I'm saying that he did say...
Once you are aware of that fact, we can move on.
No, he did say, it's not just being aware of that fact, Samson. He did same to the NDC administration. And rightly so, when state institutions make funds available for you to do what you are supposed to do. But you see, Samson, let us not be deluded into thinking that the moment funds are made available to you, then it means that you are fighting corruption. I can make funds available to you, yet I'll tie your hands from using the funds to do what you are supposed to do.
What we already know is that for such institutions, the way governments stifle them is not to give them the funds.
Are you suggesting
so they may be independent, but financially not independent.
The problem we have at hand had nothing to do with funds.
Okay, so you proceed. We are asking why you chose this issue.
I'm saying that the problems we have at hand has nothing to do with availability or non-availability of funds. It has to do with a conscious and deliberate effort by this government to get the gentleman out. And it is not only...
And that's your speculation.
I would provide evidence. And it is not only the NDC that has taken this position. Civil society groups, numbering several, I think that about 8 or more. I mean, the number...
Oh, no, they are like 21
20,
or so.
all of them have indeed defended the Auditor General and the actions that are taken by this government. You see something? The issue of corruption, like everybody says, has been with us, it will be with us. And to be very honest, I agree with President Kufuor when he said that corruption started from Adam. The difference between President Kufuor's administration, President Mills' administration, President Mohammed's administration, President Rawlings' administration, and President Nana Ado's administration is that Nana Ado has perfected corruption. And the actions and inactions of this government at any point in time is geared towards doing this. Why? A contract, everybody knows that the office of the senior minister is being investigated. The senior minister has been surcharged because the senior minister was engaged in the most fraudulent deal, which involved the monies of the taxpayer to the tune of $1 million being paid to a private...
Please. Did you say most fraudulent deal?
Okay, if it is
You
not... You
didn't say that.
If it is not...
Did the Auditor General in his report say there was fraud?
So on what basis?
The Auditor General said, I need proof of work done.
So if the proof is...
For the payment.
Why the surcharge?
Once you can't show me the proof, we know the proof was given belated.
So why the surcharge?
Right. But no, but you are saying, you are using words I'm saying do not exist in this, you know...
must they necessarily exist in it? If I have my understanding and interpretation is that it amounts to fraud, and I use that, must my words also be looked at as to how I use them? The question is, why the surcharge?
If indeed the auditor... When you say fraud, you ought to be able to show why you say there is fraud.
Okay, Samson, on what basis was the senior minister surcharged? If you are saying...
Was surcharged, according to the Auditor General,
that they could not
for
find
not
trace.
Showing proof of work done.
But was money expended or not?
Yes.
So if money was expended and there isn't any proof of work done, how do you describe that? Come on, I mean something.
It may not be fraud.
Oh well, it may not to you, but I'm saying that you have executed a project. You claim.
Let me say that this platform will dissociate itself from your comment of your categorical pronouncement of fraud against the senior minister on this subject, because the facts, as we know, he has not.
Okay,
He has not been found to be or suspected to have committed a fraud.
So what did he commit? What did he commit?
He's not been said to have committed.
So why the surcharge?
Surcharge.
Okay, granted. If you feel uncomfortable, I withdraw the word fraud, and I say that $1 million of the taxpayers' money cannot be traced. Perhaps you need to provide me with a better word that I use, and I will be more than willing to use that. Which word do you want me to use in place of fraud? Because that money could not be traced. I think you should
proceed. We want you to establish why you say this is MPP.
Samson, you intervene, and that is why I think that it will do your viewing public a lot of good. Perhaps help me with, okay, don't use fraud, use this particular word. I have withdrawn the word fraud because you seem to be uncomfortable with it, and I withdraw. I would want you to provide me with a word that I can use.
I'm not in a position to assist
Interesting. So I'm saying that $1 million could not be found. The taxpayers' money. The senior minister have been charged. Everybody knows that he was on the hills. Clearly, a contract that was entered into between the government of Ghana, signed by the senior minister on behalf of government of Ghana with Kroll Associate. The Auditor General cannot find this. The contract didn't have any public, PPA approval.
No, it had.
It didn't.
It had.
The reason why it didn't.
It had a belated approval.
No, look, the reason why it didn't. The contract was signed on the 26th of September 2017. Work that was supposed to be done based on this contract started in February. Now, the PPA approval, which was sent to the National Security, Secretariat, was in November. Now, you tell me that belated, even the contract that was entered into was in September 2017, started the work in February 2017. They had the approval. The approval was not sent to the office of the senior minister. It was sent to the National Security. So on what basis? Tell me, legally and strictly speaking.
Even the approval, there are even questions
exactly.
about
So tell me, legally and strictly
speaking,
speaking, was it a valid contract? And I'm saying that the Auditor General demanded to know, and everybody knows. Suddenly, out of nowhere, because of these demands have been made, the government came out through Yoko and says that, no, we are investigating you for the procurement of vehicles. Mind you, the vehicles were procured by the Audit Service Board. And in fact, the Auditor General didn't superintend even the procurement of those vehicles. Now, the PPA itself had investigated the procurement of the vehicles. And their position is that it was done value for money. There was nothing wrong with that particular procurement. And in fact, the Auditor General...
Did they say there was nothing wrong?
Well, fine, they said there was value for money. I mean, if there was value for money...
No, but they found things that they disagreed with,
but their conclusion, certainly. But I'm saying that their conclusion was that there was value for money.
Okay.
Indeed, if they have all indicated that there was value for money in the procurement of those vehicles, by the audit service, and on which basis is Yoko going ahead to do that investigation on it?
It's investigating on the basis of the reports that suggested that certain wrongs have been committed. The report you just referred to.
On the fact that they concluded there was value for money, yes. The fact that they needed those vehicles, except that someone is telling me that they didn't need those vehicles, except that someone was telling me that they had enough vehicles that they didn't need. But there wasn't any traces.
So we are familiar with those facts. The question now is, how do you connect the government?
Now, why is the government, the Minister for Justice and Attorney General and Justice is not interested in ensuring that Mr. Osafo-Maafo is arrested and prosecuted for procurement breaches? Mind you, there are people who are being prosecuted by this government, former appointees of the President Mohammed's administration, on the basis of procurement breaches.
When you are giving
I'm saying that on the basis of procurement breaches.
Sorry, when you are giving a surcharge or disallowance, and you are supposed to refund the money, you are saying that that is when there should be a prosecution.
Please, that's not
wait. Because that is a procedural lawful process. That because you have been unable to satisfy the Auditor General, but you and I know at this point that he provided the so-called proof, but belated. And because it is belated, once the Auditor General has issued the report, you have within 13 days to make an appeal to the High Court. There's 30 and another 30, so maximum of 60 days.
It's not just something. It's not just the Auditor General has rubbished that particular claim of a proof.
No, wait. He came belated. It's not rubbish.
Oh, he rubbished it.
So here it is. You are saying that the Attorney General, when the Auditor General issues a surcharge or disallowance, the Attorney General should go and pursue those people, and that the people that surcharges and disallowances have been issued against are not being pursued through a lawful process. You are saying it.
I haven't said that.
That's what you have said.
No. I said that if indeed people are being prosecuted by the Minister for Justice and Attorney General on the basis of procurement breaches, why is it that Mr. Osafo-Maafo, who is glaringly engaged in the same act, is not being prosecuted? That is a different matter. And in any case, you are telling me because he's been surcharged. The surcharge was not given by the Minister for Justice and Attorney General. It was given by the Auditor General. I ask a simple question. If a government that claims that it is out to fight corruption. It is out to protect the public purse. Sadly and unfortunately, the public purse has been taken to the home of the president. If you have vowed to protect the public purse, people are being prosecuted because they were procurement breaches. You are a lawyer. You know that some people are being prosecuted, and I won't be surprised if you are defending some of them in court on the basis of this, what's the name, procurement breaches.
I am actually defending people. Listen, I'm actually not defending.
Yes.
I have instituted actions
yes.
against the state for issuing surcharges and disallowance.
Yes.
It is not my expectation that the Attorney General will be prosecuting my clients because surcharges and disallowances have been issued against them.
I'm not even talking about surcharges. What I have said, I said that the Minister for Justice and Attorney General is prosecuting people on the basis of procurement breaches.
And you said that he ought to have been prosecuting Osafo Marfo. And I'm saying, I'm asking you, he should be prosecuting Osafo Marfo at the time that surcharge has been issued, where the law provides a room that one surcharge has been issued and you disagree with it, you don't pay, but you go to court
even before the issuance of the even before the issuance of the surcharges, it was very clear that there were procurement breaches. I've indicated to you that the contract was signed. In any case, why did he even? Why was he the one who signed that particular contract in September 2017, when the work of that particular so-called cruel associate started in February? Even long before the surcharge was given, the Minister for Justice and Attorney General knew. It was published in the news. It was an issue that was being discussed, that the Minister for Justice and Attorney General was disinterested in prosecuting Mr. Osafo Marfo because he had engaged in procurement breaches. That is the question I am simply asking. But it is very clear to everybody. This particular Yoko involvement in investigating the Auditor General has got nothing to do with protecting the public purse. It has everything to do with ensuring that the man is intimidated so they can exert pressure on the Audit Service Board. And the NDC suspect that the chairman of the board is indeed included in this agenda, so that the Audit Service Board can say that the man should step aside for investigation to be conducted properly into the matter. What investigation, again, do they need to be conducted? Now, why is it that the government is not interested in ensuring that all these things are done? Tell me, on the basis of whether they have the right to even investigate the Auditor General, the man is in court, and I don't want to get into it because it is in court. But we are looking at the circumstances. The NDC press conference was to do what I guess journalists should be doing. The NDC was to do what I guess those who want to protect the public purse, the like of my senior comrade Kweku Baku, should be doing. Unfortunately, they seem not to be on the side of the NDC in ensuring that very important state institutions, such as the Auditor General Office, is protected. Sadly, everybody is now saying that no, there is nothing wrong, you cannot interpret the law. Yoko is saying that you cannot interpret the law. The law ought to be interpreted by
the NDC independently came by the information we are dealing with as far as the Auditor General and Yoko is concerned, and that journalists have gone to sleep. Everybody.
Have I said that?
That's what you just said. You are doing what journalists and whoever should have been doing. But a while ago, you just said you are actually late. The CSOs, 21 of them, had spoken and giving copious legal positions as to what is going on.
Samson, the fact that I said that journalists ought to be doing what the NDC is doing doesn't mean that you don't have some journalists who are doing that. But largely, we have a section of the Ghanaian media, whenever the MPP zigs, they zag. And that is the challenge. Now, Samson, don't you think that it should be in the interest of all of us, including my friend, that we should all be jealously protecting the office of the Auditor General? And I am waiting patiently to see the comments that my senior comrade
and the NDC suggestion is that the Auditor General is above mistake. We haven't suggested it's above that. Wrong. Thank you.
No, Samson, Samson, I will not allow that to go. The NDC have not suggested. What the NDC simply is doing, that if you have evidences that the Auditor General is engaged in crime, we don't seem to be seeing any evidence that the Auditor General engaged in crime. If it has to do with the procurement of the vehicle, that is why I told you, there have been an investigation into the matter by the PPA, and they have made pronouncement. Now, are you then suggesting, because they have identified some challenges, however, the conclusive statement they have made was that there was value for money? So something, don't you think it would be in the interest of all of us, either NDC or MPP and journalists like you and senior investigative editors-in-chief at large like my senior brother Kweku Baku, protecting and defending the office of the Auditor General. The NDC is not defending Mr. Domilevo. We are defending the sanctity of transparency and accountability.
Thank you. But as you are aware already, Yoko issued a statement in the course of the week, and it was very clear that it will not relent in its work to continue with the investigations that have been going on. It says it is unfazed by the seeming public backlash, and among others, it is very clear that what it is doing, it is not doing anything wrong.
So it's the court that will determine that.
In fact, I have found out, Newsfile, we have found out that it is actually not the case that it is the Auditor General alone who has been cautioned, or as it were, asked to write a statement and giving bail. But the deputy has also suffered the same, and a couple others, more likely in the coming weeks, will also suffer a similar situation. All right, so, yes, Japa.
Samson.
Yes, why is your party in government? Why do you want to do this to the Auditor General?
Doing this,
of course, the NDC is not alone.
The NDC?
No, the NDC is not alone.
You see, let me say good morning to my colleague panelists, of course, to our cherished viewers out there. Of course, you are a colleague panelist. You see, civil society organizations have not taken the same position as the NDC. Let's be clear. They haven't said that the actions of Yoko is intended to hound the Auditor General out of office. They haven't said so. They have said
it appears Yoko doesn't even have power to do
absolutely,
what it's doing.
And I don't have a problem because Samson, you know that I'm an ardent believer in due process. Okay, and indeed, Mr. Domilevo himself has taken steps in accordance with due process to challenge the mandate of Yoko in this matter. So really, I mean, unless of course we want to cherry pick and say that, when it suits our political interest, then we take a certain position. If it doesn't, then of course we look the other way.
Let me remind you of this before you continue, that the 21 civil society organizations also had this observation to make. They say that the PPA board rejected the Auditor General's concurrent request for ratification. The PPA went further to recommend to the Attorney General to consider an investigation into the matter. Subsequently, in September 2019, the Alliance for Accountable Governance, AFAG, the MPP-affiliated pressure group, called for the Attorney General to take action on the PPA report, including calling for the removal of the Auditor General. Then in November 2019, the Yoko launched an investigation into this matter after a petition from a private citizen, according to reports. It is important to note that during this period, the Auditor General has been vigorously pursuing his constitutionally mandated functions, acting without fear or favor in auditing and surcharging a number of state institutions and individuals, including the PPA, the Ministry of Finance, and the senior minister. A number of these pursuits have courted anger against the Auditor General amongst ruling party supporters.
But you see, Samson, have you heard Mr. Osafo Mafu speak on this matter? Have you heard him?
No.
And I'm particularly gratified that in spite of all the hula baloo, he's remained quiet, and I'm sure that to the extent that he also believes in due process, would be responding appropriately, because he has 60 days following the surcharge to, as it were, challenge him in court. In any event, why do we make it seem...
Has he initiated that process yet?
Well, the 60 days hasn't lapsed, as far as I'm concerned, because the notice of surcharge was issued on the 22nd of October 2019. So if he has 60 days, Then of course, 22nd December.
It's actually 30 days. You go for leave to.
I've checked.
Is that not so?
No, it's 60 days.
You seek extension if you.
No, it's 60.
Okay, 60
so you can confirm. So
all right. He hasn't done that yet.
Well, like I said,
this in the pipeline.
The 60 days hasn't lapsed.
A bird whispered.
You know, and so
the impression earlier was that the information minister had said that they would challenge that at the Public Accounts Committee. So the thinking was that you are actually not going to court.
You see, reliably informed, a court case may be in the pipeline.
Information.
Okay.
Yeah, he did say that.
Okay, so Kweku is confirming that the senior minister, Osafo Mafo, is going to file a suit to challenge this process.
The same thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
What Kweku says and what the minister says.
Go ahead,
the fact
please.
that you have been surcharged,
which one should we take?
Doesn't mean anything, except when you choose not to challenge it. Then of course you would be required to pay up. So if the time frame hasn't lapsed, why would anybody say that government is uncomfortable with the actions of the Auditor General? Why? Except, of course, want to play political mischief, as is playing out. Look, Samson, I've looked at the Auditor General's report, which was transmitted to Parliament on the 20th of June, 2019. Nowhere in that document is Mr. Osafo Mafo mentioned. Have you seen it? Let me read the particular paragraphs.
So why is Osafo Mafo?
No, I'm coming.
No, don't listen to him. Just proceed.
You see, paragraphs 48
Sorry.
under Ministry of Finance says this: payment for work not done, 4.890 million. Regulation 39(2)C of Financial Administration Regulation 204 says that the head of account section of a department shall control the disbursements of funds and ensure that the transactions are properly authenticated to show that amounts are due and payable. The ministry procured the services of Kroll Associates in 2017 to recover assets from identified wrongdoers, investigate allegations of wrongdoing, provide evidence for asset recoveries, build capacity for the transfer of skills, advise on preventative techniques and structures to prevent and effect future corruption. During our review of the contract with Kroll Associates, we noted that though there was no evidence of work done, the ministry in 2018 paid an amount of 1 million, equivalent 4,890 to the company. Our further review showed inconsistencies in some of the documentation. We noted, for instance, that though the contract was signed in September 2017, some of the invoices attached to the payment vouchers predated the award of the contract. Management, in response to this observation, stated that they would make records available to us later. And I understand that on the 24th of April or thereabout, the Ministry of Finance actually provided responses.
They gave them all the time. They didn't meet the deadline. Yeah. They actually went, bend the rules and gave them extra grace period. They didn't comply. All of this is after.
I don't have a problem. Okay. I want to situate
you go ahead.
My argument in a certain context.
Go ahead.
Okay, that the call by the NDC that Mr. Osafo Mafo is engaged in some gargantuan crime, and that the president should focus on getting him prosecuted as against their so-called hounding of the Auditor General. It's only mischievous.
Who signed the contract? You claim that Osafo Mafo's name was not mentioned. Who signed the contract?
Don't answer his questions. Continue.
Considering the nature of the contract award,
please stop.
We are of the view that the project should have been executed for informed decision by government regarding how state resources have been used by public officers. In view of the non-performance of Kroll Associates in executing the contract, we recommend that the contract be abrogated and any monies paid to the company recovered immediately. Nowhere.
Who signed the contract?
Nowhere is Mr. Osafo Mafo's name mentioned in the report.
It's not true.
You just read the report to you. Can you read another portion of the report that Osafo Mafo's name is mentioned?
The report had
please, we know the facts.
Osafo Mafo signed the contract.
We know the facts. He signed the contract, Attorney General witness. We don't have any problem with that fact.
That his name is not mentioned
his
anywhere.
Name is not in the
report. It is indicated Mr. Osafo Mafo signed the contract.
Can you show us where in the report
where his
name is mentioned?
Who signed the contract?
Okay. he's made his statement. If you want to say another one. Otherwise, we know the facts that he signed the contract.
Okay.
Attorney General Department witnessed the contract. That one is a fact.
So something in writing a report on that, you won't talk about signing the contract.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Post that, and pursuant to the Ministry of Finance's letter to the Auditor General, the Auditor General then issues a notice of intention to surcharge on the 24th of September 2019 to Mr. Osafo Maafo. He then responds and provides all the information available to him, and indeed invites the Auditor General that because some of the work had not been completed, and because of the sensitive nature of some of the information owing to what it was that the information was going to be used for, he was invited to his office to come and inspect some additional documents if he so wished. The Auditor General then proceeds on the 22nd of October 2019 to issue a notice of surcharge. 2 months down the line.
In accordance with the law.
Due process.
Right.
And like Kweku confirmed, Mr. Osafo Maafo has a right, in accordance with law, to challenge the surcharge that has been leveled against him in the High Court.
Right.
So where is the call that Mr. President should prosecute Mr. Osafo Maafo? And look, Samson, I have read the NDC press statement. They only mentioned the Auditor General's name in passing. Their focus was on Mr. Osafo Maafo.
That's not true.
Pure politics.
That's not true.
That's exactly what you guys did.
I have the statement here. It's not
okay,
true.
so look, I don't have any issues with Yoko conducting an investigation based on a petition. I don't have any issue with Mr. Domelovo thinking that, look, Yoko hasn't got a mandate, and so I'm challenging the mandate of Yoko. Because that's what the law requires people who are aggrieved with decisions to do. The man has embarked on that path. The court has not ruled.
Yeah.
Yet,
in fact, Yoko informed us that they received the process, I think yesterday, Friday, and I think additionally, the Auditor General has also, filed to injunct them from proceeding to, invite him or for
why
anything
can't we allow due process that we all say we believe in to work? Why can't we do that?
No, that is going on. We must allow that.
So I'm saying that
there are matters of public interest.
Samson, you see, and look, I do not begrudge the civil society organizations for the, if you like, public statement that they issued. Because in their view, they are entitled to their view. Except to say that there's only the court that can make a definitive pronouncement as to whether Yoko is overstepping its bounds or not. And yes, I agree that we all ought to protect the office of the Auditor General or any other state institution that is mandated to carry out a certain function for and on behalf of all of us. But does that mean that they have no fault, and that when people suspect that officers who are occupying that position have erred or flouted the law, they do not have recourse? And that if they go through due process and lodge a complaint at a state institution, which then
No, but they're looking at the incidents of MPP people getting asking Attorney General to do the next thing, and they seem to see clearly.
No, I don't have a problem.
That what is going on is setting the Auditor General up for an Article 147 or 146 process to remove him from office.
Has the Auditor General commenced an investigation over Mr. Domolevo?
The audit service.
No, I mean the Attorney General.
No, we don't know.
So if people make commentary, but state agencies have not acted on the commentary, that should inform a press statement from the opposition.
You did that too.
Making all sorts of allegations. In any event,
once bitten.
I have said, look, we sat in this country and heard the allegations that were made by Mrs. Charlotte Osei against her deputy commissioners, and the counter allegations that her deputy commissioners made against her. We all are aware of the complaint that Mrs. Charlotte Osei herself made to the Yoko, asking them to investigate certain infractions of her deputies and other commissioners. Yoko then proceeded to do their investigation. Subsequently, some other persons or person petitioned the office of the president and asks that certain constitutional processes be undertaken to remove her. You can have your issues with the process, but is it lawful? Is it in accordance with due process? Now, in any event, has any petition been filed at the office of the president asking that Mr. Domilovo be removed from office?
The suggestion is that this appears to be the template.
So
you get Yoko to do an investigation to produce some report, but they will not be the one to pursue a prosecution. Yeah. Then somebody will use that report as the basis to make a complaint to the president.
Based on what?
I
want to know based on what?
No, the Charlotte Osei case. So that you use that, then you take it to the president, and then it's forwarded to the Chief Justice, and the committee is set up, and the man is gone.
Who petitioned Yoko in respect of Ms. Charlotte Osei's case?
It was they themselves internally, right?
Was government involved?
Yes.
The Nana Dodanko Akufo-Addo government got the deputy commissioners to petition Yoko.
Did the deputy commissioners?
Let's
no, don't do that. He's not asking you. He's asking me.
See, this is a relative.
No. Ignore. Well. Come to me.
Okay. So I'm saying that look, we can all agree to disagree.
Okay.
There's no problem.
Okay.
But if a state agency is conducting an investigation, and Mr. Domolovo feels that that agency hasn't got a mandate to investigate him, by all means, let him challenge it. And he has done that.
Thank you. He's doing so. Yes, Koku. You have the last laugh on this issue. Yes.
It's quite unfair to put me right after him.
It is.
No, he's going to.
It is not at all.
I know him.
Yeah. So Koku, here you have the NDC coming in, and I'm sure you have also seen Yoko having issued a statement to say, we're doing our job. He's entitled to sue. He sued us. We believe that the court will do its job. As for us at Yoko, we are doing a professional job.
Yeah, and I was hoping the focus would remain on the Yoko versus Auditor General.
Yes, because we have dealt with this other aspect in the last week. But
all this thing about Safumafu, crew and all the rest really doesn't help us to focus. That's my view.
But that was the focus of their
Sorry. Exactly. You and Mutala, you were not here last week, so maybe it may be unfair to seek to restrain you from looking at the facts on the matter. It's okay. So let's go.
But quick ones. Some quick things. My brother, Comrade Mutala, made a point about the Auditor General said the same thing relative to the Mahama administration. We were talking about the funding.
Yeah, I was wondering how.
It didn't happen.
It's okay.
No, I thought we are looking at.
It didn't.
Something. I thought we are looking at.
Because when he was appointed, right there, the NPP came to power. So the NDC didn't have the opportunity.
Yes, I want to clear those things out of the way.
Is that the topic for discussion?
Yeah.
Was crew and Osafumafo the topic?
The NDC press conference is saying that it has to do with
Mutala. And Koku, don't ask him a question, please.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, he's like that. I know him.
Like, I learned from you.
So, because the appointment was to take effect December 23rd,
right?
He was to confirm his acceptance December 28th, and December 30th, all this 2016, he was sworn in office by President Mahama.
Yeah.
There wasn't time for the Mahama administration to fund his activities and operations, so that didn't happen. Okay. Then two, there is nowhere in the public procurement authorities' findings, observations, that they indicated that there was value for money. Nowhere. That's his own invention.
That's not
it's his own creation.
That's not true.
I have the report here.
Let me have a copy.
It's nowhere.
Let me have a look at it.
But they did ask.
You don't have a copy.
It's not true.
They did ask that. They did ask that they should go ahead and pay.
Yes.
They should go ahead and pay to avoid judgment debts.
Is that synonymous with
it does?
value
Yes.
for money?
Yes.
No.
Mutala,
something I thought he.
No. Stop.
That's not the same as saying that they found that the thing was value for money. They actually said because the goods had been supplied and we had begun to use it, if we don't pay, there could be the possibility of a judgment debt. That's what they said.
And there clearly was need for that procurement.
Exactly.
for the audit service.
But I'm saying that let's be, I mean, we are all here, value for money. The way he interpreted is not true.
So something, when he makes reference to my statement, then when I want to...
Mutala, when we were talking, they were not doing this to you.
Okay, so
I think it's not fair. No, just stop.
The only place value for money is mentioned is this. When they came to the recommendations, they said the Ghana Audit Service are strongly advised in future procurement to write specifications without ambiguities to increase and achieve competition, fairness, transparency, and value for money. Implying that this particular procurement, they didn't think followed this thing.
Okay, so you two, let's move to NDC and the Yoko state.
The NDC, they have just invited us to interrogate a conspiracy theory.
See.
And sometimes it's good to do that just to expose the inconsistency and sometimes even the dishonesty that come along with such conspiracy theories. Otherwise, it's a useless exercise, waste of precious intellectual energy that we could redirect somewhere for more productive purposes. See, as I've indicated, that I am an ardent supporter of this Auditor General, and for good reasons. In terms of his spirit, in terms of his drive, okay? But I've cautioned that I think sometimes he talks too much. I've cautioned that he should not let people think he's an agitator general rather than auditor general. There are many instances where if I were him, I would not comment on the issues. We journalists, we are very troublesome. So we would always put things before you and ask you to chew on. And that can create all sorts of problems. Look, the Public Procurement Authority, under its mandate, and nobody has questioned that mandate, Section 3D of the Public Procurement Act, gives them the mandate to conduct the procurement audit investigation they did. That's not under dispute. And I have not heard the Auditor General challenge that. Indeed, they cooperated with the Public Procurement Authority in the course of this audit. They made adverse findings and then recommended to the Attorney General to take action. The Attorney General, interestingly, for whatever reasons, failed or refused or both to take action for whatever reasons. But a citizen of the land, and I have his petition here somewhere, I can look for the name later, somewhere it says his resident, Isaac Ni Ajete, house number 246-6, Teshin Numa Gomu. Teshin. Okay? This is his petition that he sent to the Yoko. It is on basis of this petition, dated 8th October 2019. I don't see AFAC here. AFAC made their statements somewhere September. They are pro-NPP. These things are not in dispute. But they were asking the Attorney General to operationalize the recommendation of the Public Procurement Authority.
Dr. Kuku, you are not unfamiliar with what happens in this country. Is it strange that this can be sponsored?
It's not. It cannot be strange at all. I'm not naive.
But is it a reasonable suspicion to make?
No. I say it's speculative. It's a conspiracy theory.
But it's a reasonable suspicion.
No, you are elevating it. You are cleaning it. Reasonable suspicion. That's fine. That's a good way of cleaning up the act for them. They could have said so. They could have said they reasonably suspect or believe. They didn't say that. So you don't help them, please. And I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking, my brother, please. So the focus should be there. The adverse findings that I've made, this citizen actually picked those things and sent them to Yoko. Then Yoko begins to investigate. They invite the Auditor General. He went. I think out of respect. And I think it was a good thing he did.
Yeah, he says so in his letter.
Then in the course of it, he thinks that, look, this thing is becoming perhaps excessive and you are going beyond your jurisdiction. What does he do? He proceeds to court, and that's fantastic. Yoko comes out with a counter and they are being challenged. I'm sure they'll file their defense in court. That's fantastic for this country's democracy. 2 state institutions.
The Auditor General feels and suspects this clear intimidation. Does he not have reasonable grounds to have this suspicion, particularly when they go through all of these processes and about 11 of his officers are invited, and out of the 11, even though he did not directly supervise this process, he was the one now being cautioned and asked to get bail.
You've just made a disclosure that he was not only the only one. So that's out.
But perhaps at the time he was speaking, this is the disclosure he made. But now we know that he's not the only one who has been
the Auditor General's rate
cautioned
in court, which I think his lawyer is Thaddeus.
Yes.
Sorry. I read nowhere Crow or Safamafu.
You're right about that, because that's not what they are in court.
Fantastic. He's focused. He's gone to the appropriate forum. He's raising the relevant issues and asking the court of law to give a ruling on that. Then comes in the intruders with their conspiracy theories to pollute the environment and get all of us, instead of focusing on the real issues, look at what we are doing here. And I said the Auditor General can do without it. The Auditor General can do without these propaganda intrusions. And it worries me, because you see, while some of us are focused and want to do principled advocacy for him, you have these political players, and it's a mighty one, big one, the biggest opposition party in this country. They've ruled this country many more years than any other political party. They intrude in and bring in all
elected us to rule.
Oh yes, but I haven't taken away the merit of that.
Why is that an issue?
Kuku, okay, you have been using the word focus. Focus.
I hear you. Yes, that's a good point. You know, so this is what we are doing to the case. Look, there's a case at the Supreme Court, but you know that somebody is at the Supreme Court, again, relying on the petition and counter petitions that the Auditor General and the board sent to the presidency. I'm sure you remember that.
That's about the NIA matter.
Not just that. If you read the rate, the Supreme Court, the relief the guy is seeking, it's more of a constitutional issue. Okay? The powers of the Auditor General versus that of the Audit Service Board. It's raised so many issues. Their petitions and counter petitions raise those issues. So this Ghanaian citizen, I'm told he's a broadcast journalist and a lawyer, Isaac Wilberforce. He's gone to the Supreme Court to ask the Supreme Court for interpretation. Then there was this PPA probe that Yoko has taken over, driven by a citizen petition. This particular Auditor General and the Audit Service now, at this stage, is confronted with some legal constitutional challenges. I believe that when those things are dealt with in the appropriate fora, which is the High Court, and now at this stage is talking of human rights, isn't it? And the Supreme Court, which is a constitutional matter. Look, dealing with those issues will improve our governance system. Will actually, perhaps, the gray areas, and I remember Isan Kuma writing some interesting piece on this question about the conflict of authority or mandate or jurisdiction between the Auditor General, whose political independence is ensured by the Constitution, is even financial independence, as Ace put it, was the question of like his salary and things cannot be varied to his disadvantage. But in Parliament, in the Act of Parliament, creating the Audit Service, also some functions and powers were given to the Audit Service Board. And it appears right now, if you read the petition and counter petition, the Auditor General has problems with the conduct of the board on some issues. And there comes in the National Health Insurance Authority audit, which you refer to. Also, other issues as to if he's traveling, does he have to report to the board? If he comes back, does he have to bring a report to the board? Okay, who purchases which vehicles or which logistics? All have become an issue and are being dealt with at the appropriate places.
Okay.
I think that's where we should be focusing. And then we go and bring in Crow, this, that, all that. I'm not saying Crow matter is not important.
You said it is. You said that.
No, it is.
You said it's not important.
I didn't say that.
You said it.
No, he says he hasn't said it.
I haven't said it.
Shall we go
listen
on?
to him.
I mean, it in context of the
for today's discussion.
Yes, that's the point I made. Please.
Because last week we dealt with the substantive matter, and today we have an issue to discuss because NDC brought up the witch hunt
in the press conference,
and then Yoko also issued a statement. Right.
Look, the Crow thing is important, so nobody misunderstands me.
You hear some NPP commentators actually say that the belated, proof of work done shows that the engagement of Crow has led to, or it is towards the retrieval of, $106 million. Therefore, if only 1 million is being paid to Crow to get this, what is our problem? What is our headache?
I haven't heard anybody say that, but whoever says that is talking, should I say nonsense? I haven't heard anybody say that, but it would be complete nonsense for anybody to say so. Even if it's one peswa, that's public funds and has been misapplied, misdirected, or misappropriated, it's a subject of inquiry, legitimate. Crow have done some work, a copy of which I have here. It's not fair. You can read, you can see it.
Which one?
They've done some other works. And you see, I don't like speculating or peddling conspiracy theories. Otherwise, I could use this to do that and tell you why I believe some people in the NDC may be doing what they are doing. Yes, but I don't want to join.
You speculated.
I won't join.
What you are doing precisely, you are speculating.
But you see, yes.
Can I have a copy?
No.
Yes, go on.
See, I have a difficulty, and I've asked for answers which I haven't received, and I'm being very brutally frank. In terms of documentation, the Crow thing, I saw the letters from the Auditor General to the Finance Ministry.
So if you look at this, it does appear this is the basis of the Opuni and Agongo thing going on, because I'm seeing all of these.
You are talking, I won't talk.
But Samson, the so-called $400 million, which they held a press conference and accused Opuni.
Okay.
Why?
Yes,
documentation.
Conclude.
Sequence of events. I have a difficulty with the Osafo matter. My difficulty is that they asked for, is it retroactive ratification? If I look at the timelines, I had a difficulty there. Also, that letter was addressed to national security instead of Osafo.
Yes, the auditor has an issue with that.
Yes, I have issues with that too. And when the matter came up, I thought, look, respond to those things, even long before the Auditor General had completed. I've read correspondence and communications. I'm not too convinced, but this is Kwegubako talking. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a judge. Now the Auditor General has issued, is it surcharge?
Yeah. Yes.
So it's like he's completed his side of the equation. And that is why I have been of the opinion, and I said this 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, I've been repeating it, that Mr. Osafo should move one step forward and do a Sylvester Mensah.
He's not moving.
That is how you deal with issues like this. You can't deal with this issue in the court of public opinion. We can come and sit here and discuss. We can also do some propaganda like Mutala is doing.
You keep on talking. What you are doing here is exactly propaganda in the defense of the MPP government.
No problem.
That's what you are doing.
Okay. I hear you.
That is precisely what you do.
I hear you.
Okay.
Let me have a copy of the
I hear you. So to be honest, if we are to look at Crow Osafo as a distinct subject, these are my positions on the matter.
Okay.
But right now, the focus is on Yoko versus the Auditor General. And I can't wait to hear what the court says.
All right. Interesting. Sorry, it's Bobby Banson's time to speak. So I'm sure even before the NDC came out and Yoko brought his statement, you would have read the civil society.
Look, there's one
groups.
Another conspiracy.
It's Bobby's thing.
Okay.
Allow him, thank you.
No, what's it? What's this? What's this one? Which one is it?
You'll be coming what you most despise.
No, hold on.
I'll be committing the error. I'm accusing the NDC of.
No. What is it?
No,
hold on. What is it?
One of the things they raised, one of the things the NDC has been talking about is this.
Can I have a look? Can I have a look?
Where Osafo Mafu is focused on, and Duajima also is focused.
Can I have a look quickly?
But this, we became aware of this long ago.
Yeah. But it's part of what they are saying.
This is in circulation in the public.
Thank you.
Report of the committee responsible for coordination of investigations, forensic audit for the period ended.
Ghana Gas, and you remember
Ghana National Gas Company, Microfinance and Small Loans, Maslow, Ghana Free Zones Board, bulk oil distribution, Ghana Audit Standards, Standard Authority, Ghana Telecoms University.
Having been
but
it's part of your case.
But that is,
am I right?
But we're not looking at issues like this. You can't just brandish any document and say
no, this document's already in the public domain.
I don't mean I'm not talking of the reality of the document.
No, but the entities that did the work.
This intervention is a complete waste of time.
I hear you.
Okay. All right. No so problem.
Complete waste of time.
Yeah. So what do you make when you read Yoko's statement? They say, "You guys, can you do your politics and leave us out? Is it possible to leave them out?" They say, "We're doing a professional work. What we are doing, the law empowers us to do. If the guy says he's challenging us, we are open to it. We'll go to court and let the court determine whether we can investigate him or not. But as far as we are concerned, there's a petition, and we are pursuing it. We don't think that we should treat the Auditor General differently from any other person."
I see, obviously there are two ways of looking at it. With your political lenses and with your legal lenses. I would want to look at it purely with my legal lenses.
All right.
The issue of why the Attorney General is not commencing prosecution against the Auditor General, the senior minister, based on what has been brandished about as procurement breaches, after or subsequent to the Auditor General issuing the surcharge, raises an interesting legal argument. I am of the maybe infantile reasoning at this stage that it may raise the issue of double jeopardy. It may. If the Auditor General surcharges the senior minister, and the senior minister's attempt to, going to court to challenge that surcharge is not successful, and he pays, I don't see how the Attorney General may have the capacity, not the capacity, may be able to commence criminal proceedings against Mr. Osafo Mafu in respect of the same offense. I think it's a very interesting legal argument, but I think if there is any such attempt, it may lead to double jeopardy.
But what the NDC is saying, is that conceivable in the law that when a surcharge is issued against somebody and the time for it is not even exhausted, the Attorney General can pursue that person?
That is what I'm saying, that it may muddy the waters. Because if a surcharge is issued, the law gives 60 days within which you would appeal.
You will appeal.
If any sort of proceedings is done within the 60 days, it means you are trampling the rights of that person to challenge the surcharge within the 60 days. And I don't think
can you even do that?
That is what I'm saying, that once the Auditor General has taken the step to surcharge, I think it it binds the hands of the Attorney General to commence any criminal proceedings in respect of the same fact.
So the NDC cannot be asking for what they are asking for?
I don't think so. Yeah. Unless the position of the NDC is that the Attorney General had enough evidence prior to the Auditor General commencing his work.
Yes.
To have commenced criminal proceedings.
But what is the basis? What is the wait?
That is what I'm saying. That unless I'm not saying that.
So that's the question.
Unless the NDC is saying
by the facts we know, the NDC didn't know these facts, or the AG didn't know these facts until the Auditor General.
Exactly.
You haven't said so.
I said that.
You have all the references you are making is to Auditor General.
I'm telling you the NDC
Sorry. Mutala, stop that.
No, but NDC
No, stop that.
So something about if you say NDC
didn't know, you should have spoken long before now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if the truth or if the fact is that prior to the Auditor General completing his work and issuing the surcharge, there was no basis factually for the Attorney General to commence any action, then I think the surcharge forecloses any other attempt to commence criminal prosecution against the senior minister in respect of the same charge or the same facts. That is the first point. The second point I want to make is that I
I do not agree, or I'm not very comfortable with the politicization of this issue, purely from a legal perspective. You see, Yoko, I've heard an argument by the NDC that the fact that the senior minister, you can correct me if I'm wrong, sits on the board of Yoko.
No, I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay, then let me, okay. Then
it was that committee. They were referencing that committee.
Okay.
The cabinet committee.
Okay. Then if the Yoko's commencement of investigations against the Auditor General does not stop the Auditor General from doing his work as an Auditor General, it does not. The Auditor General is first a citizen of Ghana. Is first subject to all the laws of Ghana. Remember, the Auditor General is carrying out his duties under a legal framework. And when he finishes, he expects state institutions to also act on his work.
In fact, when you check the records, the work that the Auditor General does, they will normally forward to Yoko.
That is what I was coming
to. And Yoko will show you that like 50%, they have done recoveries on the basis of the Auditor General. So they work in close collaboration with the Auditor General.
That is exactly what I was coming to.
Right.
So if Yoko commences investigations against the Auditor General office, like you had mentioned, it's not targeted at Mr. Dumelevo. It's people within that office based on a petition. If they finish their investigations and they think that there is enough evidence to commence or to recommend the prosecution of Mr. Dumelevo, the courts are there. If they finish their investigations and then they think that there is not enough evidence, they will drop the investigation or they will not proceed to prosecute. At this stage, I do not think that Mr. Dumelevo would say that he's being intimidated by Yoko because he has not been stopped from doing his work. He has not been stopped from investigating other state institutions or carrying out his constitutional mandate. Let me put it that way. There's nothing, no step, no proceeding that has been commenced to prevent the Auditor General from carrying out his constitutional mandate because of Yoko's investigation. He has a right to challenge the jurisdiction of Yoko to investigate this particular breach. Thankfully, he's taking an action in the court. Yoko would respond. I believe, I don't know if, you said an injunction has been filed.
Yeah, they filed an injunction.
The injunction, okay. So if the injunction is granted, it will mean that Yoko may not be able to carry out the investigation until the full outcome of the case. Yeah. If the injunction is not granted,
I think they've actually stopped since he...
Once it's served on them, they will stop until the outcome of the injunction ruling application. If the injunction is not granted, then it means that Yoko would have a right to continue the investigation. Investigations does not mean that a suspect becomes an accused. I think it's a normal, if Yoko had decided not to investigate the petition, merely because the person involved is the Auditor General.
Okay.
I believe that certain section of the public would have also raised issues.
Can I ask this question? Because you operate within the courts, the Auditor General, the process of removing him from office is the same as justices of the Superior Court, correct?
Yes.
So you even remove the Chief Justice. Let's not deal with the Chief Justice. Let's say justices of the Supreme Court have been involved in some procurement process. Will Yoko be investigating them?
Why not?
Yeah, I'm just asking.
Yes.
Okay, supposing that the Chief Justice, there's procurement issues within the judicial service, will Yoko investigate the Chief Justice?
I don't think it's happened before. Yeah. There was a time, there was the Serious Fraud Office, investigated judicial procurement malpractices in this country.
They investigated the Chief Justice?
No.
Okay.
So no, that is what I'm saying, that if the petition finds or gives basis for certain individuals who have personally taken part in that process to be investigated, I do not think that the state institution...
In this case, he was not personally...
No, that is what I'm saying, that if, because I have not read the petition, if the petition gives basis why somebody who was personally involved should be investigated. I do not think that the fact that the person holds that capacity would mean, that position would mean that he's above the law. Okay. And like I said, I have not had
on the premise that he is head of
you are interjecting.
I'm sorry. I mean, it's not a disruptive one.
No, you are disrupting.
No,
disrupting.
No, allow. I determine who is disrupting.
So me,
no. You're overdoing it.
So if the investigation, and I'm using the word if because I've not read the petition. If the investigation by Yoko is solely because of an office held, it makes it very easy for Mr. Domelevo to defend himself.
Okay.
Because in criminal matters, liability is on the person who actually committed the crime.
Okay.
So if he's being investigated merely because the petition says the audit service has done procurement, he did not personally partake, then there's nothing for him to worry about.
Right. So
he only needs to go and say that I didn't
before we
personally
go,
do
we
anything.
go to the next issue. What he just said.
Yeah.
Saturday last week, Afenyomakin sat here and said exactly what Bobby Banson has said.
Yeah.
That once you have no direct involvement in a matter and is being looked at from a criminal lens, you can go to sleep. Exactly. So the Auditor General should keep his cool. What do you think? Shouldn't the NDC take the same attitude?
I'm wondering why we have decided to just disregard the content of the NDC's press conference. The purpose for this particular topic is to look at the content of the NDC's press conference in light of the Auditor General and the suspicion that this is the agenda. We have decided to disregard that. The NDC have provided reasons.
You mean you sat here and you disregarded the content of your petition?
No, I mean, clearly, if you listen to Kweku's submission, he said we shouldn't even talk about the cruel associate. As a matter of fact, the reason why the NDC held the press conference is to expose the attempt by government to hound this man out because he's investigating Mr. Osafo in the matter of the cruel associate. So we could not have discussed. Can I finish? Tell him he's being disruptive.
So you don't like it?
Tell him
you don't like it.
Told me I'm being
it's the first time you are being interrupted.
So no, he's been very disruptive. So please, will you tell him? Will you see, Kweku has been the free. So I'm saying that the issue has to do with. So I agree that you might have discussed this topic last week, but the NDC's press conference. And see, there is a saying, in fact, simply once bitten, twice shy. We have seen what this government has done to similar state institutions. A classical example was what you mentioned about the Electoral Commission. You have an NPP wing that claimed publicly that they were going to petition the minister they were going to petition government to ensure that the man was investigated. And what would be the rationale for that investigation? They didn't make that secret in a hole somewhere. They made a public pronouncement. You and I sit here, we do not know whether indeed the president has been petitioned, just as they petitioned to have the electoral commissioner removed. So that is why people are raising concerns about this matter.
So let me read a statement from one of your communication members and legal team members, and then we can take a break. Return to look at, if you like, more closely, and even more importantly, bread and butter. The Commander Sugar Factory back online, and in the part of the country where I come from, there is a lot of excitement. But will it be short-lived? Will this dam, $993 million dam, multi-purpose dam and irrigation project that is supposed to revive, also partly to revive the Polygu tomato factory, will it be short-lived? Is it one of the usual political, propaganda vote-buying things that is going to happen? The Polygu Dam factory itself has received a lot of, whitewashing, and then nothing happens. The politicians go and have a fanfare, and then the next day nothing happens. Then it goes back to its state. So let's see what happens. And the Commander Sugar Factory, are we going to be told a similar story after elections? Okay, so this is from Eduji Tameklo Godwin. He says, the NDC's position on Osafo Maafo relates to the allegations of breaches of the Public Procurement Act in the award of the Kroll contract. The question of the breaches of the Public Procurement Act is independent of the audit. Breaches of the Public Procurement Act come with possible criminal consequences. Double jeopardy flows from criminal justice. Surcharge and disallowances have nothing to do with double jeopardy. Thank you, Ediji Tamaklo. We take a break here. I return, read some of your messages on this subject, and then we deal with factories, industrialization. We'll be right back. All right, you're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. My guests, Kweku Bako, Junior, Andre Japar Mesa, Bobby Banson, and Mutala Muhammad. And a few of your messages. Eja Adam says, is the NDC saying Daniel Yao Domelevo is in the category of the saints of biblical fame and therefore must not be hauled before any law enforcement agency even if he breaches the laws of the country? Yoko is not a court to jail or acquit a suspect. The Auditor General is in court challenging the locus of Yoko in investigating him. That process has not been exhausted. Kofi Atta, I think as always, sending from Cambridge, he says, it's unfortunate this matter has become an NDC MPP play. You see why I say you should vote no? The questions that any court or investigating body must ask and answer are, had any individual or entity wrongly benefited from the wrong procedure used in the procurement? Had there been a loss to the state from the wrong procedure? If there has been no loss and no individual or entity wrongly benefiting, then corrective administrative action should be recommended and not sanctions. Well, you are speaking like the CSOs. The CSOs were saying that this was purely capable of being, you know, cured, but it looks like the CSO said it looks like somebody wanted to show him where power lies or something. Theophilus Amasa says there is too much back and forth on the Auditor General issue, fueling speculations which overshadow the facts and lead to absurdity. Kweku Mreku says that Mr. Osafo Mafu's name was not mentioned, but he signed the contract. Equally, Domelevo procured the vehicles not in his personal capacity. Okay, so I think we can pause there and come to look at the matters of reviving and revamping or industrialization. Can we quickly listen to the president? And once we are done with the president, we may listen to Tongrana, also what he had to say about these matters, or John Peter Mewu as well about the sugar factory. Let's listen briefly.
This project is also very crucial to the realization of the One District, One Factory initiative, as it will serve as a catalyst to developing agro-industry, including reviving the Kwalumu tomato factory. Other hydroelectric projects, such as Akosobo and Bui, were intended also to have irrigation schemes, but they have unfortunately not materialized. The story of the Kwalumu multi-purpose dam and irrigation project will be different.
This project will certainly be remembered by the people of Ghana, especially within the project area. Again, by the people of Ghana, especially we the people within the project area. Again, the benefit of this project is so huge, especially our teeming youth who have always migrated to the southern part of the country to search for non-existing jobs.
They've taken the investors to the site and to introduce them to the chiefs. I'm not sure they have signed any contractual agreement with them. That I haven't been told. But before they do that, we'll all be interested in knowing the processes that they went through for them to be selected as those who won the bid. Very interesting. Very interesting because we have so much interest in this project. You remember the NDC, and for that matter, the minority brought the Minister of Trade and Industry to the floor of Parliament and to ask him questions relating to Commander Sugar Factory. His answer was that they were looking for a strategic investor. And he also added that the assets had depreciated to about $11 million. Is it not interesting that today there's an investor who is willing to inject about $28 million into the project? So you ask yourself, a minister told us it was worth $11 million. Today somebody is willing to put in $28 million. That raises eyebrows. And so we want to interrogate this. We want to see what has happened between this period that the assets now appreciated and that an investor is interested in buying it at $28 million. So for us, there's a new development that we have seen, and we interrogate that.
Okay, Yaba. All right. So let me start with Kweku. And I'm sure you may have followed the Commander Sugar Factory matter, and now we are told that it is in a better shape, ready to do business than what we had heard earlier. And then yesterday too, the president did what he said no government has ever done for the upper regions, if you like, Upper East region. 25,000 hectares of land is what is going to contain a 60 megawatt hydropower plant and 50 megawatt solar power plants. Then, beyond everything else, the Bagri Dam spillage that we have complained about for many years, and the water that is always spilled that goes to waste. Now that water will be contained and it will be for a good purpose. There will be a reservoir that can accommodate up to 120,000 kegs of 25 square meters each of fish, with an average yield of 2 tons, making possible the continuous development of the country's agriculture and fisheries sector, among other things. Yes, what do you have to say? Well, some will say this is the usual thing. They cut the salt and that's it, gone.
Well, we've had that situation in our history before. It's true. There are times we've cut salt and nothing happened. For a variety of reasons. If you want 2 classic examples, you remember the STL rather. We cut salt, nothing happened. Subsequently, we abandoned the project. I also recollect that the Kufuor administration, President Kufuor himself, cut some salts for landing bees and harbor. Let's choose is it the one, Odododo area? Jamestown. Yeah. And that too, nothing happened. Indeed, I remember when the president was cutting the latest of the salts, he said that since 1965, we've been cutting salts for those projects and nothing happened. So it is not, it's factual that we've had that experience. Let's hope this doesn't follow the same trail. If you look at the scope and coverage of what we are being told will be done, it's huge. Yeah. If indeed it comes into reality, it can qualify as the most massive project up north. There's no doubt about it. And the mischief that they are supposed to cure, this Bagri Dam thing and all that. So I just hope that it's continued. If this administration wins the next election,
Inshallah, don't win.
Well, I don't want us to contest that. in the most unlikely situation of Murtala's party winning, they will continue.
Yeah, they have to continue.
Yes.
That's rather unfortunate how we abandon projects.
Yes, it's not fair to us as a people.
I remember Ali Mustafa Idris, former late minister for
Works and Housing.
For Works and Housing and then Northern Region as well. I remember him saying that this was a no-brainer. That you have Barry Dam spilled, and water we need for even Akosomo has to collapse people's homes and kill people, and it goes waste.
That's right.
So now we're going to hold this water and to do several other things.
Yes, if we are able to execute this, great for the country, not for any administration or person. It's just great, and I pray that the commitment is there across the political divide for it to get actualized. So, and I'm also not, I don't know much about, the details, but I think the broad parameters is okay. Commander, that's why I'm moving quickly to Commander.
Right. Okay.
You played back a member of parliament. I wasn't too sure what he was talking about. He was talking of some valuation or something. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
I really don't get it.
Yeah.
See, we've dealt with that issue here
Yeah,
before.
he settled it, yeah.
Yeah.
Settled.
There were two valuation reports, both commissioned by PricewaterhouseCoopers. And,
Have you seen the second one? Have you seen the second valuation report?
Which one is?
After him, I'll come to you because this is a ministry that you were also deputy minister.
See, I will read from the technical report. PwC's role was to run a process to secure an investor to take over the Commander Sugar Factory. PwC provided an asset valuation report prepared by a Center Property Consulting. You remember I made some error on this matter, and dated 17th October 2016, which valued the assets of the factory as follows. Land and buildings, $90 million. Plant and machinery, $34 million, $0.7 million. Total, $53.7 million. They subsequently also, I think when this administration came into office, commissioned, valuation and appraiser consult. And that valuation report is dated 15th September 2017.
The same PwC?
Yes.
Public?
Yes.
Yeah.
Land and buildings, 28.8 million. That's US dollars. Farmlands, $2 million. Road and civil works, $3 million. Plant and machinery, $12 million. Others, $1.1 million. Their total was $40.8 million. You realize there are some items here that were not in the first one. But the critical point, and that's where the apparent confusion came, in terms of plant and building, that was where it was valued as 12 million.
Out of 35.
The other one, 19
million.
Yeah.
That's why I said I was not sure what the gentleman was alluding to.
Okay.
Now, right now, the new project, the strategic investor, what I hear, and I've got some little documents, it's not extensive, is that it is a lease agreement. Yes, it is a lease agreement for 15 years. They are to pay $3.3 million annually for 15 years, after which the factory reverts to the state. That's what I know. If you look at the profile of the strategic investor, the subsidiary one, which appears to have a Ghanaian connection, and the Indian one, they have the financial capability to execute this project. It's too early in the day to perhaps pass any judgment. I would have wished these processes had been done much earlier. I have to be honest with you. 3 years is quite a long time. But sometimes some of these things, looking for the right investor, getting the right valuation, are not things that come easily.
Okay.
But I would really have wished if we had done it earlier. Whatever it is, it's never too late.
All right.
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, so this is the ministry that you were working at. So when you hear the news about now a strategic partner coming in to do what you couldn't do, what you told us you had done, you had done, which turned out to be, you know, a 9-day wonder or a white elephant.
You've just made a conclusive statement.
And then I'm asking you questions, and then you tie it in with what has happened in Polgo.
I would want to address the Polgo issue first before I come to this.
Okay.
The president claimed that he has done what no any government has ever done for the people of Upper East, per what you just read. In the matter of the Polgo, that is false. Oh. That is absolutely false. I'm just making reference to what Samson said. I don't know where you were reading it.
I didn't understand him that way, but go on.
Yes, I understood him that way, and he knows what he said.
The president was emphatic that this would be.
Yeah. Would be, thank you.
And that is false.
That's upon completion.
The largest biggest.
Yeah, that is false. It's false.
Okay,
and I will
yes, go ahead. Show us why.
This is not the first time we have had this project in the drawings. It has been in the drawings since 1964. Yeah. As a matter of fact, the Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's government wanted to do this. We have had successive governments. If you check, in 2016, SADA made it very clear that the work was supposed to commence in 2016. The total amount of money that was needed to execute the project was $700 million, which government of Ghana was supposed to provide. They got a France, in fact, one particular consortium that did the feasibility studies, a company from France. Now, government of Ghana didn't
Must be the same company, because I heard
France. Government of Ghana didn't have that money. The only way we could get the money was to get it through the World Bank. And the World Bank actually advised SADA to change some of the things, the size of the dam, the energy capacity. It was projected to generate about 250 megawatts. The dam, everything was supposed, the World Bank suggested to SADA they needed to change it. The work was supposed to commence in 2016.
And if it had been completed,
please, can I finish?
What would it have been?
You see, the
most massive.
You just had you spoke, I listened to you. I'm saying that the feasibility studies was done under the NDC, but the money was supposed to be about almost $1 billion. Almost $1 billion. Now the World Bank advised that we needed to change some of the things. And you see something? I'm making this statement because this government, they peddled a lot of falsehood against President Mahama. And you had leading members of the NPP who have said publicly that President Mahama diverted monies meant for this project. Oh, please. President Mahama had to respond. Even when you didn't hear, you don't hear anything.
You know, there are things that don't get said on this platform.
No, I'm saying not here, but it was said everywhere.
Yeah, but you know, don't bring them here. People cannot say certain things here.
So I'm saying that this was some of the preposterous allegations made against President Mahama. Okay. The extent to which, when he was contesting to be elected as the NDC presidential candidate, went to Upper East and he was confronted with that. And he explained that the $3 billion, the Eastern Corridor, he never diverted the Poalugu project to the Eastern Corridor. He explained, and that is why I was making references to when the feasibility studies and everything was done. We got we got $30 million for $300 million loan from Brazil. That was exclusive of the Poalugu Dam projecting. And as a matter of fact, it was supposed to be used in Juana Dam. Juali, you may know the place better than me. However, it's between Ghana and Togo. But the spillage was going to have some resettlement in Togo. And that was going to cost government $100 million to resettle. So the NDC government said, no, we cannot do the resettling people in Togo as a result of the execution of the Juali Dam. So we agreed with the Brazilians, and Parliament then approved that it should be used to execute a project along that lane. And that is why the Eastern Corridor project came. So it wasn't about President Mahama diverting this. Feasibility studies and everything, the amount of money was. Now this government heeded the advice given by the World Bank, because World Bank themselves claimed they could not have that $700 million for government of Ghana to execute the project, and they did that. But let me come to the Commander Sugar Factory.
Before you come to the Commander, you haven't said what you said you set out to do.
That
the President said, this will be the single largest investment ever made by any government in the northern sector of the country.
And the President went ahead to talk about the fact that he is executing it. And it's important you talk about that, something.
Sorry.
Yeah.
we didn't even talk about executing it.
Yeah.
We had just said,
I read the statement.
The president said this will be the single largest investment ever made by any government in the northern sector of the country. Yeah. And you said that was untrue.
That is false, Samson. I'm saying this because I read.
You haven't shown that it is false.
I read the statement.
What other project? What other project?
Can I explain?
No.
Oh.
Just don't waste time. What other projects will equal this in the northern sector?
Samson, you see, you it's like you said your own question. You demand to me how I answer
the question. I said the questions,
Samson,
yes.
But
That's what I do.
I'm answering the question. And what I'm saying, I read the statement the president made. The president said that this will be the single largest project ever to be executed in that
northern sector.
Northern sector, and that it was the NPP government that was executing. And I say it's false. It's false.
It's false that they are executing it.
They are not. The idea, please, can I finish?
Which government is in power? Which party is in power?
You see, something. Let's try to be honest and sincere. Is that like when President Mills was commissioning the N1? President Mills was commissioned, but he knew that the project was started under President Kufuor's administration.
We have a different.
It's not a different.
We have two different understanding of execution.
Perhaps we may. But I'm saying that for the president to go ahead and say that this was what the NDC government has done because of their concerns of the people of the North, I'm saying it's not true. You came and met a project that was started by the NDC, executed. You can take credit for executing. Please. I'm not talking about executing Pualu. I'm saying the feasibility studies, the amount of money that was supposed to be procured was done by the NDC, by the World Bank.
The loan for
the 993 million.
Hold on.
Sorry, the $993 million was procured by the NDC.
Is he the one asking me the questions, or you ask me the questions?
So can you just answer?
I have just told you that the total amount of money for the project was $700 million.
And this was procured.
Can I finish?
Was procured.
Oh, can I finish?
Can you answer me?
I am answering you.
Yes.
But allow me to answer you.
The answer is yes or no. Was it procured?
How do you procure money to execute projects like that? Has the money been procured for the execution of this project? Is that what you are suggesting?
Yes. And Sino-Hydro is part.
I'm not talking of Sino-Hydro. I'm saying this one.
Saying.
Has the money been procured?
This one, Sino-Hydro is part of it.
Because the World Bank had agreed to extend the amount of money for us to execute this project.
So what happened in 2008?
Hold on. Can I answer the question?
The president said the cost of the project amounting to US dollars $993 million. The cost will be borne entirely by government.
True.
And will be executed under an engineering, procurement, and construction contract by Sino-Hydro, and will be executed in 50 months.
Samson, I am saying that when you make a statement and create the impression that this is something that is supposed to be done by the NPP government because we care so much about you, that is the point I am making.
The issue in contention, which you said was false, was that this will not be the largest single largest investment in the northern sector.
Something, please. Yeah. I wasn't making the statement in relation
to
what
you said was false.
That's your understanding.
That's the only statement that was made at the time.
I said that it is false to say that this is
my friend, don't do this. Don't
I shouldn't do what?
That was the only statement made at the time you were challenging.
Do what?
That statement did not include President claiming it for him or his party.
Of course.
It was that this would be the single largest investment in the northern sector.
Can I answer you?
You haven't proven that it was false.
The point I am making has to do with the fact that this is not the first time that project is supposed to be executed. And I have indicated to you that the drawings have been since 1964, and I've also indicated.
So you are now setting your own question.
Which question am I setting?
That's not the question that came up. So, Commander, can you do some 2 minutes?
If you had allowed me, we would have even finished with
Commander.
Commander Samson. Samson. The point is that, listen, we went into a loan facility. Mind you, Commander factory had been there before. There was a factory producing sugar in the Commander. Unfortunately, this factory got collapsed somewhere in the late 70s. Now, when the factory collapsed, the people living in that area never stopped producing sugarcane because they have been engaged in the production of sugarcane for decades, if not centuries. So what the people then were doing, they were then selling the sugarcane to breweries. President Mills decided that we needed to revamp that Commander Sugar Factory. So we got an Indian Exim Bank loan. The loan was in 2 tranches. The first one was for the construction or the building of the factory. The second one, which was $24.5 million, was to be used for the raw material production so that you can have adequate and efficient, the quantity of raw materials that you need to supply the factory. I have listened to the argument that is being made, that why did we build a factory without the needed raw materials? And something, you should be asking my colleague and asking the MPP government. We approved the $24.5 million loan in November 2016, because that was a component of the entire loan facility. Ask them why they refused to access the $24.5 million loan. Allow the factory to rot for 3 years. And certainly, when you allow a factory standing for 3 years without any activity, what happens? It may lose its value. So I'm saying that if the factory has actually lost its value...
Okay, thank you. So let me now ask him. Thank you very much. So you are sharing about just 5 minutes left. So can you, in 3 minutes, what do you have to say about Commander and Polugu?
Is he suggesting that he procured a loan to build the factory, completed it, and then subsequently went to procure another loan to come and build the raw material for the factory?
No. Something can
But you opened the
don't intervene.
You opened the factory in May and closed it.
We never
immediately thereafter, and then engaged Pricewaterhouse in October to look for a private sector partner to come and take over the company.
That is not true.
That's exactly what you did.
Something, can I respond?
There's the report.
This is the report.
Something, can I respond? Which report?
Go ahead.
Look.
Go ahead.
Which report?
Commander.
That is false.
Commander was deception at magnanimous proportions by the NDC. Look, they opened the factory on 30th May 2016. On 5th August 2016, they contracted Pricewaterhouse to sell 70% of it. They actually got somebody who indicated that they were going to complete. The person pulled out in December of 2016.
That's not true.
These are matters of fact.
Proceed.
Fact.
Sorry.
Where?
Mutala, you stop. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so in
Mutala,
2017,
stop.
this government had to conduct a technical and financial audit to then look for a new investor, and that's where we are today. Okay, so they opened the factory. What did they tell us? That they were closing it for technical and operational reasons.
That's right.
We're all in this country.
Who told you that?
We were here. We lived it. You don't have to tell me. And what is his issue with Polugu? Yes, Polugu was on the drawing board since 1960, whatever. Just like Bui was on the drawing board from independence. Who built Bui?
Bui was there from colonial days.
Who built it?
From colonial times.
It is a fact that it was President Kufuor who procured funding to build Bui. Indeed, in 2008, government procured $525 million to build Polugu Dam. Parliament approved it. The funds were disbursed in 2019. You diverted it.
That is a lie.
It's a fact.
You see, Samson, that is the
telling
point.
you it's a matter of fact.
Samson, that is the point I was just making. That's a lie.
Just a minute.
That is a lie.
Let's have Bobby.
That is a lie.
Let's have Bobby make a little comment about it.
It took President Kufuor to come and bring it.
That is a
What are you talking about?
Samson, are you not getting the point I was making?
Sorry, guys, stop. It's okay. Thank you. So what do you make of these things? Industrialization drives.
At the end of the day, we've said that we need to increase our level of production.
Right.
We need to boost up the manufacturing sectors of the economy. If this Polugu project and the Commander Sugar Factory project come to the mainstream, it will not benefit only NDC or MPP. It will benefit Ghanaians.
Right.
And so I believe that we should channel our focus on making sure that indeed within the 50 months as the president has promised, the money would be there, the money is there, the project would not only be commenced and left midstream, it will be completed. Okay. And I certainly hope that the Commander Sugar Factory would stop being an issue.
These are the
for all
legacy
these
and
years.
the vice president.
Sorry. We hope that it will finally come on stream. There will not be legal, because listening to the ranking member of the NDC, it seems to suggest that they may have issues with certain aspects. I hope that there would be, whatever issues there would be solved. So we don't have the strategic investor facing legal tussles in the event that there's a change of government. I mean, this is a factory that will benefit all Ghanaians. Right. If there are issues, we must make sure it's done well and it's done right once and for all.
All right. Thank you very much.
Voice of moderation.
Yes. Thank you very much. My guests have been Abdul Malik Kwekuba, co-editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. We call him Comrade. He's former deputy minister. Former deputy minister of Trade and Industry. Bobby Banson is a lawyer. And Andrew Ejapa Mesa is MP Second D, Vice Chair, Communications Committee of Parliament. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini, and as always, my outfit is by Latida. And we want to say congratulations to Matilda Wamega, one of the producers of Newsfile, who by now would have been married. God bless. And Manasseh Azore, we should join him in the Upper East region and as he launches the 4th John today. Right.
When it comes to writing books, that guy is disciplined.
He's good.
Manasseh is good, yes.
Yeah.
Real discipline.
All right.